Okay.
Good morning. We're here at the Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village this morning. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of September, 2015. My name is Farley Wuth. I'm the curator here at the museum. And this morning we're honored to have Frank and Joe Bruder and Bernie Bruder here as well to tell us about some of the early history of the Bruder family and of the early history around Pincher Creek. So we'll be talking to the twin brothers here and Bernie as well. So good morning, Frank and Joe. Welcome to the museum. We have a few questions for you for the history this morning, and we're just wondering, if you don't mind me asking, how old you guys are?
We're short 10 days of
on the 1st of November.
Let's see, this September, well, we're short a month of 95.
Wow. And your twin brothers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Always have been.
Always have.
Who was born first?
Who was born first out of the two of you?
Joe.
Okay.
Joe. Wow. That's amazing.
Mother used to say 5 minutes, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I had no way of timing it.
Yeah, no way of timing it. So were the two of you born on the homestead out in the Moore district, or where were you born?
My mother and dad lived in that Fishburne area.
Oh. Yes.
You
East
know
of,
where the McGlenn family is in there somewhere?
Yes.
Well, it was in that area somewhere.
Uh-huh.
They call it the sheep wash place, but
Oh, okay.
if you know where it was.
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And that's where you were born?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Did your mom have a midwife there to help out with the birth?
Pardon?
Did your mom have a midwife to help out with your arrival?
I think her mother.
Oh, your grandma?
Just grandma, that was it.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, there was a great grandma at that time, but I think they're probably both there.
Uh-huh. Wow. Well, that's amazing. So did you grow up on the sheep wash place then, or did you grow up in the Moore district?
We moved to where the Bruder family lived in the spring of 21,
Okay.
so we weren't there very long.
Uh-huh. And where exactly was your parents' ranch there in the Moore district?
Well, right now it's, who's on the place?
Brenda.
Brenda, somebody or another, but she was a Bruder too.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
My youngest brother's daughter.
Okay.
Our youngest brother's daughter.
Yeah. And how far was your mom and dad's place from, let's say,
Well, you know where the Mar School was?
Yes?
That was a section. They went, but it was down in the creek bottom, south and east.
Down
Wow.
on the creek, on Drywood Creek.
Uh-huh. On Drywood Creek. Wow. And what sort of ranch did your mom and dad have? Did they have cattle on it? Did they have sheep on it? Or did they raise crops?
Well,
They started out with sheep,
when Dad bought the place, there was 500 head of sheep on it, and it was the people that owned it before were the name of Frick,
Mm-hmm.
and they had moved to Oregon or something. I don't know where they went, but and he bought it with the sheep.
Wow.
Just about starved to death raising them.
Oh my goodness.
You know,
Yeah.
at that time, sheep weren't hardly worth anything.
Uh-huh. So how long did you have the sheep? Just a little while? or-
Well, he kept, how long were the sheep around?
Well, they started to get some cattle about, let me
I'd say
think.
about 10 years. Then the sheep were, while you were literally starving with sheep.
Right.
And he finally got some cattle in, you know.
Mhm. What type of cattle did he raise? Did your mom and dad raise?
Oh, them days, I think when you're picking up cattle, it's whatever you can get.
That's right.
Whether they were, don't ask me, I think mostly shorthorns, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bulls were short horns mostly.
Yeah. Wow.
And we milked quite a few cows, up to 10, I think, sometimes,
Right?
by hand, you know.
Yes. Yeah, that was the milking machine, hands at that point, yeah. Well, interesting. So how big of a herd of cattle did you have?
Well, there was only a section of land,
Oh,
so
okay.
until the sheep were gone,
Yeah,
probably started out with 10 or 20 head of cows, you know,
Right.
and then increased.
mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Did you raise any crops on the
Oh yeah,
on the place
Yes.
too?
farm, not a great deal them days, but some.
Yeah. What types of crops? Was it wheat or barley or?
Well, I think those days it was mostly oats or something that you could feed the horses, eh?
Right.
You know, because you had to feed them horses, you know, there was no four-wheeled
Yeah.
things running around.
Yeah. And that was your
Strictly horses.
that was your method of transportation back then. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So what was the weather like back then? Do you
What
remember?
the weather was like?
Yeah, back then.
Same as it is today.
Oh,
It hasn't changed.
it hasn't changed in all those years and all
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Well,
I think we had the same variation, you know.
Yeah.
Wind,
Yeah.
rain, and maybe some years of very early snow
Right.
in early September. I remember seeing one that was 4 feet.
Wow.
And I think that was quite early in September.
Wow.
Everything was flat afterwards.
Yeah. So it didn't do the crops much good to have that much snow.
Yeah, well, we've cut crops one way because of snow different years.
Yes.
You know.
So was there any drought back then?
well,
Yes.
the Hungry 30 started in 1930, so you figure it out.
Yeah.
Lasted for, what, 6 years, eh?
Mm-hmm. Lots of hard weather and all that. Lots of dry weather. So.
In
I don't
1936.
think it rained twice in all that length of time, you know, but lots of snow.
Uh-huh.
1930, my dad always talked about how cold it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it snowed every month of the year. But it was never rained.
Uh-huh.
And we had an aunt and an uncle came from Nebraska,
Right.
and they were going to stay for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
The day they came, it was snowing, on about the 1st of July. It snowed on the 1st of August, and they stayed till toward the end of August and started to snow. And he said, "I'm getting out of this damn country, all it does is snow."
I can see why he was thinking that way. Yes. Yeah. That's
They
amazing.
were a great old pair.
Yeah.
My dad's mother died when the youngest one was born in the family. That
Right.
was Claire Showerty.
Right.
And this aunt and uncle that I was telling you about,
Right.
they looked after the kids
Mm-hmm.
until they come to Canada.
Wow.
And my grandfather homesteaded southeast of Twin Butte.
Right.
And he had to prove up the homestead, you know, had to build a little house and break 20 acres of land.
Right.
Well, I presume he got it done because he finally sent a letter down there to send the kids up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the little story too, you know. Aunt Veronica, she figured out it'll take 4 days on the train.
Mm-hmm.
So she packed enough food. There was 4 kids. And nowadays,
Yeah.
what kids, you know, they eat about twice as much as what you figure.
Yes.
Well, anyway, they got to Pincher Station.
Mm-hmm.
The what do you call it? The depot was closed. Eh?
Uh-huh.
And these 4 kids are standing on the
On the platform?
The platform there with their bags, that was it.
Yeah.
And Fred Robbins, that's my uncle, he met the train always, and he come along with his wagon and his horses. Got talking to the kids, he hadn't an idea who they were, you know.
Right.
But he'd met my grandfather.
Right.
And he kind of put two and two together. He said, well, take you home and give you something to eat and put you to bed. So a few days later, he put the kids on the wagon,
Right.
hitched up his horses, and he drove out there. That'd be about 30 miles, eh?
It would be, yes.
With no road, eh?
Yeah. That's
No,
amazing.
no bridges, you know, there was nothing, eh?
Yeah. That's amazing.
My grandfather was out shooting prairie chickens,
Uh-huh.
and he hadn't seen these kids for 4 years, keep in mind.
Uh-huh.
And when Fred Robbins come driving across the field, he was out shooting these chickens, and he, whether he recognized the kids or not, but he didn't say nothing about,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Wow.
And they asked him where the house was, and he told them where it was. So they drove over. Well, he had cut across on foot, and he got there. And when they come to the house, here he was. You see, he realized who they were, and what a great way to come to Canada. Huh?
No kidding. Yeah. Sounds like quite the adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your grandfather's homestead was southeast of Twin Butte?
Yes. Do you know where any of those people live?
Some of them, yes.
The Meyer quarter, you know, the Meyer
Yes.
family was right on the corner,
Right.
3 miles east,
Yeah.
and they were a mile south on the west side of the road.
Okay. So that would be south of the Huddleston place.
Being Bonner's place.
Oh, it's Bing Bonus place. I was out there at that auction sale in
That's
June.
where-
Okay, I know where that is. Yeah. So that's quite a distance from where you two were raised. Then that's like 3 or 4 miles.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just a short afternoon ride, you know.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. It's
That
quite.
must have been 7 or 8 miles, wasn't it?
Pardon?
About 7 or 8 miles?
Yeah, across country, you know, it'd be
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
7 or 8 miles.
Yeah. Wow.
Those days, you know, that was cross country. There was not much to stop you.
I know it'd be open quarters, and a lot of the land wasn't fenced and things like that.
Well, there was probably a little bit of fencing to keep your horses in, you know,
Right.
but not too much, I don't think.
Yeah. Wow. That's neat. So, both of you attended the Morris School, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. What? Do you have any favorite stories about the Morris School? About some of the teachers or your classes, or?
Well, those country schools them days, you know, they had every grade, eh?
Yes.
And our first teacher was Miss Tolson, and that was Stanley Harlan's wife's sister.
Okay. Yeah.
And she wasn't married yet, but she just stayed there.
Yeah.
That was our first teacher for 3 years.
Wow.
Then we got Josie Hochstein, or Josie Higginbottom.
Mm-hmm.
How long did she last? About 5?
I don't know.
Anyway, and then we had Mary Jackson. You remember the Jackson
Jackson.
hardware?
Yes.
Well, she was the only daughter in that family.
Right.
And she was there for, well, I only went there 9 years, and so what, 3 or 4 years she was there too, you know.
Wow.
We never went there for 9 years. It was only 8, wasn't it?
Oh, we got 9.
Wow.
So the last year she was teaching the algebra and geometry and it didn't go over very good. I loved arithmetic, I was good at it, but this algebra and stuff.
Wasn't your cup of tea, eh? No, it's not mine either, so. Yeah.
But the whole school, there'd be 20 some odd kids, and one year there was every grade
Wow.
in that school.
Uh-huh.
And you know, that is the best thing in the world, when you got all grades in there. If you pay attention, you'll hear that all for all the grades.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, when you come out of school, you'll know more than a lot of these kids do today, particularly with this thing that they're
Testing out now, yeah, I imagine you learned lots back then and all that, and lots of good stuff too, so. Yeah.
And that was one thing we learned to do, was pay attention. That last girl, Miss Jackson,
Yeah.
she was great at putting our ads on the blackboard. She'd
Okay, right.
take her chalk and she'd write, 5 times 10 and
Yeah.
minus 7 or something.
Yeah.
And then she'd take it and wipe it off. Well, you learn pretty quick. Pay attention.
Yeah, or you're gonna lose your
You have the
assignment.
answer, you see,
Yeah.
because you had the answer when she was finished.
Yeah. Yeah, so she kept you on your toes.
So we were good at arithmetic.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic.
I loved to read.
Yeah. Wow. So near the school is the Mar Lake. There's the Mar Lake right near the
Yes,
school. So did you go skating on the lake in the
Oh,
wintertime
yes.
or playing hockey or something?
Wintertime, oh yeah.
Yeah. Did both of you play hockey?
Well, we played at it, but the skates we had them days were,
We didn't have those fancy skates that you have
Yeah,
nowadays.
I
you
know.
nobody knew
Used to have
anything about
skates.
sharpening skates.
Yeah.
So it was just pretty smooth.
Yeah.
And they weren't very good for skating.
Yeah.
And there was lots of cracks in the lake ice as well.
Uh-huh.
And I know one day we were skating there and I got one skate caught in one of them cracks and I
Uh-oh.
sprained the ankle.
Oh dear. Yeah, I had to be careful. It could be pretty rough ice out there. So.
And Mary Jackson was our, what do you call it?
Teacher?
Well, in those days, every school district had a men's hockey team. And these young farmers, they'd skate in the wintertime, and that was a great place there. Eh?
Yeah.
But Mary Jackson was the goalie.
Oh.
You can believe it or not, and there was no pads those days.
Yeah. So she came out with
One
it.
time she got the puck right, and,
Yeah.
and I think she lost a couple of teeth. She had
Oh
to
dear,
get them
poor
fixed
girl.
up.
She also had a black eye, didn't she?
So she came away with a few bruises and all that. So, yeah. Wow. So with your hockey team, did you just play there? Or did you compete with some of the other school districts? Or
We didn't trade too much in the wintertime, but in the summer with baseball,
oh yes.
or softball, I should
Yeah.
say.
Uh-huh.
We used to go to different schools.
Yeah.
We used to go to where she went to school, at the Yarrow district,
Yeah. Wow.
wherever,
Yeah.
In them days it was hard to get from one school to the next.
Yes.
They didn't have,
It was all horseback, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
There
Before
was no buses around.
no buses, no trucks, no cars to speak of. Yeah.
it was horse time,
And it was the horse time. So, yeah.
or on foot.
On foot, yeah, so you didn't travel that much, so, yeah. So did you ever come into town at all, in the Pincher Creek?
Oh, yeah. Maybe two or
About
three
once a
times
year, I
year,
think.
Yeah,
with a team of horses.
yeah. And how long?
My dad was pretty proud of a driving team he had.
Mm-hmm,
They came from my mother's dad,
Uh-huh.
and they were what they called standard breds then. They were a light horse, a light colt from a heavy horse. Eh?
Right.
And they were about 5 years old, I think, and finally traded a milk cow to my granddad for this pair of a gelding and a filly.
Yeah.
And you remember the Revere family?
Yes.
Well, he got Jim Revere to break them, that team of horses.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, well, he probably done a pretty good job on them, but they were kind of crazy. And that team would come to town,
Yeah.
20 miles
Wow.
in an hour.
Holy cow. That's amazing.
When they started to trot, it took a good horse to keep up to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was pretty proud of that team.
I can imagine.
Well, he was proud of all his horses. Eh?
Yeah.
Those, remember, the horses, if you didn't have a horse, you were on foot. Eh?
Yes. Yeah, that was your method of transportation back.
Was, you looked after him, you had to
Yeah.
feed him good.
Yeah. Take
whatever.
care of them. Yeah, take care of them, because not only were they your transportation, but they worked the fields and worked in the ranch with you and all that. So yeah.
They done the work on the farm
Yeah. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So. Wow. So where did you get your groceries? Did you buy them in town or?
Pincher Creek.
Yeah. What were some of the stores in Pincher Creek at that point? Do you remember?
Oh, God.
Better wait.
Yeah.
There was a store on Main Street. I don't ask me. The Quap wasn't in there, you see, until
Till after the war.
well, they started selling hay in 22, but
Yeah.
they didn't sell groceries until
Yeah.
I think maybe in the 30s, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got the history of it at home, but I haven't
Yeah.
got it with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So where was the nearest post office to your place?
Twin Butte.
Twin Butte. And is that where you got your mail?
Yeah.
Yeah. How often would you go pick up the mail? Maybe once a week or something like that?
Oh, once a week maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Probably on Saturday. One of us did a ride over to Butte
Yeah.
get mail.
Yeah.
We used to ride a little bay mare, and you remember the old Frenchie
Yes.
Revere?
Yeah.
Well, he had a dog team. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they weren't dogs; they were wolves. Eh? He had caught, and we were. You remember we were riding the double deck on that horse. We were, and I guess she could smell these dogs.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't go any further. She went back home.
Oh dear. She was scared of the wolves.
She realized what those dogs were,
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't even see them yet, you know, but you could smell them.
Yeah. A good sense of what was safe and all that. So yeah. Yeah. Wow. So at the Morris School, did they have social events after
Oh,
school,
yeah.
like dances and card parties or something like
There
that?
was
Christmas parties?
a couple of fellas could play a fiddle, and
Yeah.
They had basket socials to raise money for likes of Christmas or
Uh-huh. Wow.
and they had dances there quite regular, eh?
pardon?
They had dances there
Oh yeah.
quite regular in the winter, like.
Uh-huh.
It was just
See, this school started out by trying to raise money to buy a piano.
Oh, okay.
Well, when you consider that maybe it cost 25 cents to go for the dance,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what pianos cost them days. Maybe, what, $300 or something? I don't
Yeah,
know.
they might have.
But they finally ended up with a Heinzman.
Uh-huh. And piano at the school. Wow.
Now maybe some of the farmers give them a little bit of money or
Yeah.
something. I don't know, but
Wow.
they finally got their piano.
Yeah. Oh, good for them.
And Mary Jackson, she could play that thing.
Right.
She's
And did they have Christmas
oh yeah,
gatherings there too?
put a party, a concert on.
Yeah.
Oh, lots of fun. Practice for 2 or 3 months, you know.
Yeah. And did they have a Christmas tree up there too?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, sounds,
Yeah.
sounds quite amazing, and all the things they did at the school there, so.
I think that's the only party they had was Christmas for
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they didn't have the other holidays.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have as many holidays as they have now.
Mm-hmm.
Now they get 2 weeks at Christmas and a couple weeks at Easter. And,
Uh-huh.
there was none of that. We went to school to learn,
Yes.
and we went pretty near every day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow. Yeah, learning was good back then, so, yeah. So both of you, like your family worshipped at St. Henry's Church, didn't they?
We went to St. Henry's Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories or stories about the church or anything like that, or going there, or anything you remember in particular about the history of the church, or?
I need my interpreter. I was talking too much. So.
Oh well, all the history is good and all that. So, so does anybody have any stories about St. Henry's Church where you went to church and where you worshipped?
Well, we usually went with team and wagon or
Yeah.
sleigh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Built in 1927.
Mm-hmm.
The church there. You see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just what, about 4 miles from your place?
Well, what was it, about 5 miles, 6?
Maybe
We were a little further.
6, 7 miles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vernie, where was your place? Where was it located where you were raised?
About a mile down the creek from their place, from the Bruder place.
Okay.
We were just close to the where the Yarrow and Drywood Creek met.
So that's down at the creek bottom there.
Yeah.
So is that south of the Stenson place and all that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Right below the BA
plant,
plant there.
yeah. Yeah. And Vernie, what was your family's name?
Bonards.
Bonards, of course, that's right, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's down where the family has a little campground down there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
That was where her father and mother lived, and then eventually that's where we ended up.
Oh, okay, yes.
We raised our family there.
There, that's right, yes. Yeah, that's a beautiful campground, or place down there and all that. I've been there for 4-H picnics and things like that, so.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful location down there. Yeah. So you went to...
That, first of all, just to play ball, you know, and then we kept adding on to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So is that how you met? Was that a baseball game?
Well, Sunday afternoons when we got home from church, we were great friends with JoeFrank's sisters, and my sister and I, and 2 of their sisters were close the same age, and we visited back and forth. Either we'd go home with them and spend the day at the Bruders, or they'd come home with us and spend the day at our place.
Right. Wow.
And then after a few years, we began to realize that boys weren't as awful as we thought they were.
Well,
And we started pairing up with other friends and neighbors in the area.
right,
And we went to a lot of ball games.
right.
There was a pretty good ball diamond just east of us, about another mile or a mile and a half. And we'd ride down there and either watch the ball games or play ball.
Who were some of the other neighbors in your areas that you knew at that time? Who were some of the other pioneers that lived there at that point?
At that time, the Pete Robertson family lived up on the hill south
Right.
of us. And they were a big family.
Mm-hmm.
And
she had 3 uncles, Bonards, you know, they were all in that same area.
Right.
There was different ones.
Yeah, it was a big family.
That was the day, you know, that church was not just to go to and run away again.
Mm-hmm.
Church was where your social life, it's sort of built around the church. They'd go to mass on Sunday, but they'd probably bring their lunch, and they'd sit there afternoon and visit.
Right.
You see that happening today?
Yeah, not as much, no. Yeah,
They go and they get there just about the time the bell rings and they're gone.
yes. Yeah, yeah, the church, both the church and the school were really part of the community life back then, so, yeah.
there was a neighbor, the McCarthy family lived right near us.
Right.
And Mac McCarthy was very instrumental in the building of the church.
Right.
He was a carpenter.
Uh-huh.
And of course our dads helped, and
Right.
my uncles and the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Clunker
Yes.
was very instrumental in the building of the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fred Clunker, I think, was a carpenter as well, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
Were you married in that church?
yes.
You were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite a few years ago now then, eh?
It'll be 70 years on the 18th of October.
Oh,
Wow.
wonderful.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Let's see what else I have for questions here. Did your family speak German at home?
Bertie's dad and mother spoke German, and my dad spoke German because they came from Nebraska.
Right.
My mother came from Iowa.
Oh, okay.
She did not speak German.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad used to speak German with, all those people that come to Nebraska, that whole area, the Shrimps, Bonards, you name that whole area, they all spoke German.
Right.
Because that's where they came from,
Yes.
was
Wow.
Germany, you see.
Yeah. That's amazing. So when I was reading up on the Bruder history, there in the article in the history, there was a reference to the cow camp. Do you remember anything about the cow camp or where it was located?
Well, the place that I mentioned where he bought this section,
Yes.
section 21,
Yes.
was called the cow camp.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
There's there was actually, 3 big barns on the place. These Frank brothers must have been hard workers. They built these barns, you know.
Wow. And on your home quarter there in the Marne district, what sort of buildings were on there that were from before that your family built? A house and a barn? And
It was a very small house, wasn't it? And then your dad built a house. Right, Frank? Right. That was a very small house when you first were there. And then your dad built the house.
Yeah, there was just a very small.
We called it the Little White House.
There was a big granary that they also used. They had to have more space for, I guess, for this young guys. Anyway, what year did they build the house?
Well, it was early 30s.
I can remember when they built it,
Yeah.
while they were building it, but
Because the house wasn't big enough, it was,
yeah.
In those days, a house was a tough thing to do, you know. Money was always.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
There wasn't much
Seems
money.
like now there's lots of money, but those days there wasn't any money, you
Yeah.
know.
And so was there a set of corrals out there on the ranch that you and your family built? And barns and
Yeah, there was a set of crowds, but I don't know. We all must have helped building off and on.
right.
I don't know when it was started. Was it?
Well, the crowds that were already on the base when Grandpa took it.
Was the kraal on there when they had the sheep? Or
But
was
there
it
was
later?
there was a crowd there already on that big barn, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What about a well? Was there a well on the place?
We had spring.
You had a spring, eh?
Yeah, lots of springs along that part of the creek.
That was one beauty of it. There
Yeah.
was a spring of the pipe, a 2-inch pipe, and it ran steady.
Wow.
There was lots of water, but you had to carry it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was good. You had a good supply of
Same
water
as
there.
the wood, same as the coal, same as everything that went into the house, you had to carry it back out.
Yes, that's right.
Well, when they built the house, they dug a basement and there was a spring in the corner. And that, they cemented that up and kept cream cans in there. And,
Wow. And it didn't freeze in the winter?
oh,
No. Wow. That's fantastic. So now your dad was also on the municipal council for a while, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So he was quite the community fellow. He did lots of things for the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
And wasn't he on the school board, like the Morris School District?
It was
board?
on him and Stanley Harland, the two of them were on the school board as long as I can remember on the Mar School. They never got off.
Uh-huh.
And nobody else would get on,
Yeah.
you know. So they
They-
carried on.
They always helped out and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful to do all that work and all that. Who did the improvements on the country roads back then? Was it the municipality and they hired people, or people volunteered to do that, or?
the municipality looked after the roads. And if there was any culverts needed to put in or anything like that, they hired local people. And I run the maintainer one summer. We used to go with the maintainer after every rain and
Right.
smooth it up a bit.
Wow.
But that was with 4 horses.
Yeah, it was horse pulling graders and all that. Wow. That's amazing.
I don't remember what year that was, but I expect it was.
Well, that was part of the summer work for the farmers, you know, was build, repair roads,
Yes.
put culverts in there. And it was always done, your horses,
Yeah.
your wagon, your scraper, your plow,
Yeah.
and they allowed a certain amount on your taxes for that.
Gave you a break in some of the taxes for your road work and your community work and all that. So.
My dad was foreman on that crew for a long time.
Yeah. Many years running. Yes. Yeah.
And if you got a big, heavy rain, you know, then you knew there was some work to be done on the culvert because half the time they would wash out because they were too small, so the water would start running over the road and then wash
Wash the road out.
wash the road away.
Yeah.
But so after that, you had to get them fixed again because the vehicles couldn't go without having them culverts in.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of community work.
And that was all done with horses them days. You have a
Yeah.
plow and a Fresno,
Yeah.
4 horses.
They kept up their own telephone lines too.
That's right, I'd forgotten about that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody had to look after the telephone line.
yeah.
I done that for a few years.
Uh-huh.
That was back after I started farming, so that must have been in the 50s.
Uh-huh. Wow, so each area had their own sort of telephone company or telephone system
Well,
now,
there'd be about up to 10 or so on a line.
on a party line, yeah.
And how many lines come in from south of Pincher? Must have been about 18, was it, or something?
Or something like that, yeah.
Wow. Do you remember what your telephone number was back then?
603.
Wasn't easy. Wow.
Each line that Frank is talking about,
Right.
each area had that first number.
Mm-hmm.
And that area where we were was 6.
Right.
And where you were was 12, wasn't it? I don't remember.
1208.
Hmm?
1208.
It was 12.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all over the country that way,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see.
Wow.
And then there were, in town was what they called the central.
Right.
You probably,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to get a number, you turned that thing, and then the central speaking or whatever
Yeah.
it was, what number do you want? So
Yeah.
try to get that number.
Yeah. Phone the operator. Yeah.
It's different today, you know.
Yeah, everything's run by computers and all that instead of people and so forth. So your place was, you could see Waterton Lakes or the Waterton Park from your place. Did you ever go out there for a
Well,
visit?
no, you can't actually see Waterton Park because there's a ridge of hills between
Oh, that's right.
our area and Waterton.
Uh-huh.
You know what they call it there?
The Glasgow Hill?
No, that was just south of Twin Butte. It was the next ridge over further,
Oh, okay.
where that bend is.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to drive up to Waterton before you seen it.
Yeah. Did you ever go up to Waterton as children for a visit or anything like that with your
I
folks?
remember one time that my Uncle Frank, he got a car, and he took some of us up to Waterton that one day.
Yeah.
So, but I think that was the first time we'd ever been there.
Yeah.
It was, there was very little at Waterton
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. Wasn't the big resort back then that it is now.
No.
So.
No.
Yeah.
The roads weren't very good either, you
Yeah.
know, no place.
Yeah.
There was no hard surface, or a lot of the roads weren't gravelled.
Mm-hmm.
They were just dirt roads.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a completely different lifestyle back then than what youngsters are used to today. and all
Yeah,
that.
quite a bit different.
Yeah. So. Do you have any other stories you'd like to share with us from the old days or from
Well,
years ago? Some
the
of
year
them.
of the big fire, that year that came down, that was 1936.
Right.
The fire come out of Montana and on the west side of Waterton down Castle.
Yeah.
I remember I was mowing hay, and I was 15 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in 35, yeah, it was 35, or 36.
Mm-hmm.
And the police came one morning, and everybody over 18 had to go because the fire looked like it was going to come out of Carpenter Canyon.
Right.
And we were very fortunate that time
Mm-hmm.
because the wind changed to the north, and they got that fire out in Carpenter.
Wow.
Otherwise, it would have come out on the prairie.
Yeah.
But and I also know I got the same day I seemed to be awful damn sleepy. And when I got home, Mother said, well, you got the measles.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess that I couldn't hardly stay awake on I was driving the team on the moor. And I remember the grass was about this high.
Yeah.
If you had a sharp blade in the mower, it would cut it all right, but the rake couldn't pick it up because it was just too thin.
Yeah.
And we for hay that year, they cut the bulrushes in the lakes. The lakes were all dried up,
Wow.
and they cut the bulrushes, and we stacked them up with wagons. I don't know what the feed value of that kind of stuff was, but they also said that what fills fattens if it don't poison.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
That's also the year they, from up north, cut school grass, and the stuff was about as big as you, at least. And they cut it later in the fall, probably off after it froze. And that's what they shipped down here for the people to feed their cows.
Right.
Well, it wasn't very good feed, but later was those bulrushes.
That's amazing stories there. Do either of you or any of the three of you remember Herbert Hatfield, who had that big ranch down by the river? He would have been a senior citizen when you were youngsters. Do you remember him?
Who?
Hatfield. Mr. Hatfield?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember him?
Well, we didn't know Mr. Hatfield, but our oldest brother Henry, he worked there
Oh.
for, I don't know how long he was over there, but he worked there. And that was all saddle horse, you know.
Yeah.
The Hutterites have it now.
Yes, it's the Waterton Colony, yes. Yeah.
But no, we didn't ever. Oh, well, I can remember him saying that Mr. Hatfield, he was he was a single man, I guess, yeah. And he had a foreman by the name of Jack Hardy, and Jeff Hardy was his son.
Right, I know Jeff, yeah.
And I can remember Henry saying that all the good jobs Jeff got. And Ernie Hahn and Henry were working there at that time. Now, I don't know just what year that would have been, but it'd be a few years before the war, anyway.
Yeah, back in the 1930s, so, yeah, well, that's amazing, yeah. So how many brothers and sisters are there in your family?
There was 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Uh-huh,
There are 4 left.
uh-huh,
2 girls, Frank and I.
uh-huh. Wow. So, there's the 2 of you, and you said was Henry? Was your brother? Who are the other brothers and sisters? Can you name them off?
Vince
Oh, right,
and
yes.
Ed,
Uh-huh.
they were younger.
Mm-hmm. And the girls?
Well, the oldest girl, Sister Ida, she went away and she was a nun.
That's right, yes.
And she taught school up in the North Country there in the back in the woods where it was muddy and
Yeah.
and then the next one was married to Verney's brother,
Oh.
and they moved from here to what?
Stettler,
Stettler, and then up to
Edmund.
Valley View.
Yeah, Valley View.
Yeah. Wow.
And then Agatha, she's married to Murray McRae.
That's
That
right.
was
Yeah.
Wallace McRae's oldest boy.
Yeah.
They are still living at Didsbury,
Oh, up there. Yeah.
and they're quite aged too.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And the next one, Alice, was married to Jim Robertson, and he was in the army for a while, but he had a bad cough, and he finally got out, and then they got married the same year you did he? I forget.
Shortly
Anyway, then he went and he became a park warden.
Down at Waterton?
Well, he started at Waterton,
Yeah.
and he went to Banff,
Okay.
and he was in that program where they were tagging sheep and,
Oh, okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know just what.
Yeah.
And he was also a firefighter.
Uh-huh.
And the youngest one, that's Rosalie Levesque. She's still here in
That's
Pigeon.
right. That's Emel's wife.
And Ed. Ed.
Eh?
Ed.
Oh, and the brother Ed, yes. Well, Vince and Ed. Ed was he got I don't remember what they really called it. They thought he had
Lead poisoning.
lead poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
but he got like paralyzed, sort
Oh,
of.
dear.
He had bad time. He spent a lot of time in the hospital. That, but
Poor fellow.
he finally died down there. But
In
he
a
had,
wheelchair for 46 years. Anyway.
he had the home place at that time.
Right. Wow.
One of his daughters is there now. Well, I guess it's more than that. There's another. They each got a quarter or something. They split it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a wonderful and an amazing stories that you, the three of you, have been telling us. So thank you very much for telling us all this history and in such an interesting fashion too, and all that. Those stories are very informative and very entertaining and all and so forth. So
Well, I wore this uniform today,
Yes.
so I could. I thought maybe you might be interested. I joined the army on the 9th of February in 1942, and I went overseas. I was in Glasgow
Right.
in less than 5 months,
wow.
and 42 was a really bad year for U-boats in the Atlantic and the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Right.
And but we managed to get across without getting sunk.
Yeah. Good for you. And help keep the country safe and all that too. So that's great. So yeah. These for 3 years. Then did you?
Well, I went to Normandy
Mm-hmm.
on about D3, and then we went through France, Belgium, and into Holland. And the last trip I made into Germany, actually we made that trip to one of the concentration camps
Right.
in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
We drove all the way across Germany, and I thought at the time, the way that, my God, this country has great roads. They had what they call autobahns,
Yeah.
and they don't get enough winter over there to make the frost heaves
Yeah.
like we do.
Yeah.
And that, well, it was just amazing. Driving across that country, and that road was just, we hadn't had any of that type of road
Road construction
during
over
the
here.
war.
Yeah.
And if we did have it, got wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. So, yeah. So thank you very much, all three of you, for helping us preserve the history and all that, and for your great stories. So thank you. Yeah.
Well,
We could probably tell you some stories, but we haven't.
Thank you.
we can think up some more.
And that book,
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
that history book that was written,
Yes.
our family is in that.
Yes. Yeah, I read, and that's where I got some of the, I read that up, and for that too and all that.
Yeah.
Now, Pauline says she's got coffee on in the kitchen over here.
I'll put the. I can put the coffee on right away.
Yeah,
Or tea.
wore out both my knees, you know.